Welcome, everyone. And the time is now. The time is now to come together. I'm excited to be here. You're going to find out more and more about, and maybe you already have some pretty clear sense of why is the time now more than ever. So I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm thrilled to be with each and every one of you. I know some of you are here live, some of you are not here live, and that's great. It is what works for you. And there's a lot to talk about and a lot to cover. So let's just go farther. So as we move forward, okay, so here's where we're headed today in a very overall picture, is we're going to be talking about what is going on now, what's going on our planet. I realize some of you are in the United States. A lot of you are not in the United States. That's great. We need to be functioning as a global planet and a global community. And your soul's role on Earth and on the other side. So related to what's going on our planet is, who are we as a soul in life today? And who are you up there at the soul level, at the higher self level? Okay. The time is now more than ever. I think that's probably not new news to anybody. And we're all embodied souls. What are you doing on Earth? What are you doing in the higher realm? How does it relate to now? Okay. And so, you know, on our planet, there are many, many, many of us, maybe all of us in one way or another, some small, some large, we were taught to hate. Hate's not a natural emotion. Okay. Okay. So let's dive in. Okay. Lots to do. So I want to merge together first, and Earl's going to pay attention to the chat box, and so he's kind of back there behind the scenes assisting me. You'll hear from him in a bit. So what's going on our planet? And what we're going to look at overall today is what's going on our planet and what's going on with our souls. What roles do we have? Why are we feeling the way we're feeling? How can we deal with it? How can we understand it? And on and on and on. Okay. So maybe some of us wish we'd never heard of COVID-19, but of course we have. And more than likely you all have a sense of this, but I want to earmark some things. COVID-19 and George Floyd, racism and the commonalities of what's going on, okay? My sense is that when Earth began and souls began to embody on Earth, that I would almost say, if we boiled it down and down and down and down, why are we here, what's going on, it would have been, okay, humans, can you figure out how to live in an egalitarian culture? Can you balance the rich and poor? Can you balance across religions? Can you balance across borders? And on and on and on and on. So what do we see with COVID? We see that COVID has affected many more Black, brown, and red people, as well as the elderly, than it's affected white folks, more middle-class folks, and basically not those who in certain ways don't have as much privilege or opportunity. So what are we doing in regard to diversity? What are we doing in regard to equality? Okay. Those people that have been more affected by COVID, and those people that we're seeing are more affected by what we would call racism. And I bet in some cases, some of you out there fit with some of these qualities and conditions. worse living conditions, less income, less opportunity for education, less opportunity for healthy food, less opportunity, we're all probably a bunch of spiritual people on this call and in this free teaching. So, if I walked into your kitchen or I walked into your bathroom, it's like, what vitamins are you taking? What supplements are you taking? And so on. And, what fresh vegetables and fruits do you have in your refrigerator? Well, a lot of these people don't have any vitamins and supplements and fresh fruits in their refrigerator. Okay. So just quick, I'm going to just bear with me. We're going to flip back and forth, right brain, left brain, right brain. Here's some recent statistics. Okay. For right now, these are black-white statistics. Okay. And these are US based statistics. In the United States, median income, that's the middle of the income range, which, the less and more drops off from the peak of the median. The average white person earns $71,000 a year, and the average Black person earns $41,000 a year. It's about 60%, okay? Poverty. Approximately 8% of Americans live in poverty. Statistically, that's a formal term, poverty, and 21% of African American folks live in poverty. In terms of health insurance, and this is all pretty straightforward, but those that lack health insurance, white people, 5%. Black people, African Americans, 10%. The coronavirus. There are 13% of the US population are Black, but 23% of COVID deaths are Black people. That's kind of stark, okay? So, those of us that are white, or, even if we're not white, living with, middle-class upbringing, middle-class life, and living in privilege. Okay. I want to bring in other diverse groups, and we're probably all diverse groups. I come from an immigrant family. I come from a minority religion. I'm also a piece of diversity. Okay. So Latinos and Latinas, people of Latino and Latina origin, and we have that in our immediate family. Related to COVID, 65% have lost jobs and lost businesses. 65% of Latinas and Latinos have either lost their job, and others have lost their businesses. So Black people, brown people, red people, Asian Americans, Native Americans have been incredibly affected. So this is my message. It's now, not later. And, I was saying to Earl, I think it was just yesterday, it's like, oh, I hope we're in this window of time of opportunity. But the only way that things are going to change is because of you and me, or us, okay? So my message is, we have to take action. We have to teach equality. And then I just wanted to earmark, a lot of you know, the Navajo Nation is the largest Native American reservation in the United States. They have suffered mightily with COVID, and the government has not been particularly helpful to them. And of course, and this list of names could go on and on and on. Trayvon, George, Ahmaud, Michael Brown, okay? All lives matter. Now, am I just teaching current events? No, and I think you all know that. This is about, why are we who we are as souls? Why did you want to listen to me talk about this? What's the point, and how do we deal with it? And how do we cope with it? Okay, so, all right, now we're going a little bit to the right brain versus the left brain, okay? And I'm going to share with you what I know about the soul, and it comes out of my 26, 27 years of guiding soul regression. Okay? So, a lot of people say, Linda, where are souls created? How are souls created? Where do souls come from? Okay? And this is where you have to think frequency. I'm not a physicist, so I can't explain this in a physics mentality, but it probably could be explained from an energetic physics mentality. Souls are created at a higher frequency than we live at on the earth. And souls are created, you could say, pick your word. They're created by the divine. They're created by God. They're, some like the word creator, some like the word Tao, the source, doesn't matter, okay? There is a higher place of frequency, wisdom, higher power. And that's where we all come from, okay? And where I'm headed with this whole hour and a half time that I'm so thrilled to have so many of you choose to join and listen is I want to talk about what I have to be reminded. I'm trying to think of how to say this clearly. I have to remind myself, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling today? What am I being affected by? Am I being affected by the protests that are going on across the United States and outside the United States? Am I being affected by the people that are unhappy about our US government? Am I being affected by my spiritual guides? I know it kind of goes on and on and on. Am I being affected by the anxiety of people around me who can't decide whether it's safe to start going out a bit more or not? We'll talk about that. And what I believe is so important when you think about yourself is think about yourself as an incarnate soul, a Linda, an Earl, a Susan, an Adrian, a Michelle, a Jim, a John, a Gary, a Pierre, a Jean-Claude, because I know you're coming in from all parts of the world. Right now, Earl and I should be in, where should we be? We should be in France, except that trip that was a little bit vacation and some work that I really wanted to do in Switzerland, that isn't happening. So here I am with you. So that's pretty cool. So we're going to talk about who are you up there at your soul level? What does that have to do with who you are at your human level? And I'll show you how, at least for me, it helps to look at my life that way and begin to understand, well, what am I supposed to be doing right now? How can I solve this COVID, lack of diversity, George Floyd, horrific murder situation? And what I always know when I see the many of you registering for a program like this is, yay, more experienced souls are coming together. So I get this golden opportunity and this beautiful honor to be able to share with you what I'm learning and share with you what's coming forward for me. So hopefully it'll help all of you and help all of us separately and also as a community to come together and do what we can do to affect change. So begin or continue, it's probably continue with examining your life, okay? And I want to, I have to kind of work hard to not get so much in my left brain as I, kind of talk to you about these things. I want to bring in right brain experiences, okay? Okay, examine your life. Who are the people that either are in your life right now or have been in your life? And what does that say about you at the human level and at the soul level? Okay. the people that are in your life, like them, love them, or find them difficult. They probably find you difficult. They probably find me difficult, are there for a reason. They're showing you what needs to change. They're showing you maybe that you don't value yourself enough. Okay. Who are the people in your life? Okay. What are your passions? What really resonates for you? So stop and think for a minute, if you will. If you work for income, or even if somehow that income has been lessened right now because of COVID, what's your work life and what's your non-work life? What's your work life and do you love it? Okay. If you love it, it's a passion and it's in alignment with your soul agreements. If you don't overly love it, but it pays the bills and you have other passions, for some people, that's the case. You know, some people are an accountant by day and an artist by night. Okay. This is how you begin to get a sense of why are you here and what can you do? What's your soul all about? And what's your humanness all about? A lot of you know my story, but for those of you that don't, just briefly put, about 27 years ago, I was just, as I always say, minding my own business as a psychologist in general private practice. I didn't understand the soul at all. And then I had a death in my life, a significant person in my life. And suddenly I discovered past lives and the soul. And then I had to walk to that fork in the road. And I had to say, well, okay, Linda, are you brave enough to go what I thought was off the deep end and begin to do soul level work with people? Or are you going to stay with where you thought you'd be? I was back in my middle 40s. You're going to stay with what you thought you'd do the whole rest of your life. And that was general psychology. Okay. Please think about being brave enough to dive into your passions. Okay. That is how you are more in alignment with your soul, your higher self. And that's how you're more in alignment with your human agreements. We'll be talking more about that. Look at your fears. Examine your fears. We all have fears. Fear is not a soul level emotion. Fear is a human level emotion. And a fear, if I try to make it simple, if there's something you fear but you don't understand the explanation, you refuse to get on a cruise ship and go somewhere because you have no reason to be afraid of being out in the middle of the ocean somewhere, but it scares you to death, it's probably past life. It's probably a past life memory. But if the fear is, I have always wanted to take the plunge and, you know, cross my fingers and risk and stop being a conventional psychologist and start being a soul regression therapist psychologist, what'll happen? What about all those medical doctors that support me and send me clients? Okay. Honor your passions. Okay. Honor your truth. What about your health? What's going on in your health? Recently, this week, I worked with a client who, in the span of, I don't know, 6 months to a year, fractured the same bone in her body, except she fractured it in more places the second time. And when we did regression work together, when I guided her in a regression, she, and I know this may or may not sound weird to some of you, she isn't living in her body. She's not living in the grounded reality for which she came to be. She comes from a place, we'll be talking about types of souls. She comes from a place far off in the universe, and she's trying to live there, except she agreed to be here. Okay? Examine your health. It's going to tell you a lot about who you are as a soul. Okay? Segues. Okay? Those are those segues where Spirit says, okay, John, okay, Susan, okay, Linda, okay, Earl, okay, whoever, you're going to come smack dab up against this. I don't know if you guys can see because I don't have myself. Let me pop myself up on the screen so I can see myself. Hang on. There we go. Okay, so you're coming up against this stuck place. Earl came up against it. I don't think he cares if I share this. Earl came up against it in academia years ago and was tired of dealing with academia. I came up against it as a conventional psychologist and was tired of, not hugely tired, but sort of tired. What are the segues? What if you got laid off? What if your company downsized? Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, that's probably happened to a ton of people of late. Okay, so bringing this back. Okay. You probably all know, I'm looking at my clock. 3 hours ago was the height of what's called the strawberry full moon. Okay, strawberry because it was so bright red, and many people were calling it a fire moon. And we're also in the midst of a lunar eclipse. So what does eclipse mean? Eclipse means close or go dark. But the moon shows itself again. Now it's daytime for me right now anyway. And so, but start thinking about eclipses, okay? What needs to close and what needs to open, okay? And you guys know the routine. So often the next door will not open until you close the one behind you and go, is this going to be all right? Okay. Well, in my opinion, this week, and I'm a news junkie, a lot of you are, a lot of you aren't, and that's fine because we're all different. I think humanity has shown us, certainly in the United States right now, it's time to make change. It's time to make change. We have to alter humanity. Think about how, I'm going to say each of us because I'm sure it's true, how we've had the power and we have the power to take charge of COVID to the point that if we follow the guidelines, we're going to protect ourselves and we're going to protect others. Nobody has that power but us. There's no vaccine. There's no magical pill, even though some people think there's magical drugs that solve it. And we've been shown just in the last, 10, 12 days, we have a problem with anger on our planet. We have a problem with minimizing certain groups of people because we think they're lesser than we are and we think we're better than they are. Now, maybe not us on this call, I don't know. But out there in the real world, that problem exists. And truly, the only people that can change it is us, meaning humans. And as more experienced souls, we have a huge responsibility. We'll be talking about that. So dream big and act big. Don't dream small and act small. It's the only way that things will change. Okay? Okay. Going farther. Okay. New souls. New souls. Let me talk to you a little bit about new souls. Why do I know about new souls? Regression after regression after regression. Okay? New souls are created. And then I like to think of them as marsupials, because when a little new soul is created, and new souls are still are in an ongoing way being created, they get to go into a marsupial-like environment at the frequency where they're created. And they're treated like a marsupial baby in a pouch. They're kept warm and they're nurtured and they're fed and they're protected until they're ready to go out and incarnate. Okay? The universe only progresses through incarnation. It's the only way the universe progresses. The universe progresses, the earth progresses by you and me and you and me and you and me. It's the only way it works. Our shoulders are, there's a lot on our shoulders, but we have the ability to do what we came to do, especially if you think in these terms, okay? And try your best to stay out of fear. So let me say a little bit about early cultures. I tried to kind of pack a whole variety of sort of topics into what I'm talking about. My best understanding is that early cultures that were considered civilizations, they had a civilized structure to them, started in 4 different places on our globe, okay? And they all started in the area of a river, or where rivers came together, because obviously that was their means of water. So, you know, if we had time, I'd say, okay, where do you think but there's so many of you out there, it makes it a little bit cumbersome. Okay, so think about this. 4 early cultures, 4 early civilizations on the earth. Okay, Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers come together. Okay, Egypt, the Nile River. China, along more than one river. And then lastly, and some of you might guess this, but I didn't know this years ago, what's called the Indus, I-N-D-U-S, Indus River Valley, where India meets Pakistan. In that northern area of India, near Pakistan, there is a river called the Indus River. That's the 4th and earliest civilization, okay? Some of us, maybe a lot of us, actually probably the bulk of us is my guess, because you're all experienced souls or you wouldn't be listening to this program. You've more than likely had lives in one or more than one of those early civilizations, okay? So we've kind of already talked about, where did Earth souls originate? Earth souls, in terms of creation, were created at a place in the spiritual realm where Earth souls are created. It's a frequency, okay? And then what's a soul pod? Okay, soul family, okay? A soul pod is the souls that were created at approximately the same time as you. And those are the souls that you incarnate with over and over and over. It's a little bit like those kids in your homeroom when you were a first grader. You spent time with them over and over, or your neighborhood when you were a kid. So just play around in your head I'm kind of hitting on some topics that we could probably spend a whole hour on. Um, Play around in your head with the notion of who do you know in your life today, or who have you known in your life today? You know, in other words, you knew them until you were 12 and then they moved away, or it was your beloved grandparent that died when you were 14. What people did you or do you know in your life today that you either really click with, or sometimes it's really you don't click with them, and it's that same clashing because you agreed to work on something for each other? That's your soul pod. Okay. Now, yeah, let me dive into this whole thing. I wish I could say to each of you, since COVID started, and then since the trauma of George Floyd's murder occurred, or maybe you've had a trauma in your life in addition in the last 3 or 4 months or 6 months or a year. What are you experiencing? What's going on with your sleep? What's going on with your anxiety? What's going on with your fear, your health? Okay. Some of you know the term HSP, highly sensitive people. We are HSPs. I have little doubt. Experienced souls are HSPs. We feel things with our fingertips, and I don't mean literal fingertips, although you can do that too. Okay? It's a blessing and a curse, except it's really important that you see it as a blessing, because only if you see it as a blessing are you going to figure out who are you at the soul level. And I'm going to be talking about what do I mean in a few minutes. Who are you at the human level? Why are you here? What has your soul agreed to do? And what is your human life? What are your agreements? If you have questions popping up in your mind, and I realize it's only those that are live, you can send me a question if you want by email if you're not listening to this live. But start, if you will, if you have questions, and I will cover as many as I can, put questions into the chat box. And Earl's going to manage that. And thank you to Earl being the pilot, who's piloting what we're doing. Okay, intuition and coping. All right, first, think about your intuition. Think about, and you're all intuitive, and please, I'm going to say, don't tell yourself you're not intuitive, because you are, okay? We all are. But how are you strongly intuitive? Do you get pictures in your mind, eyes closed, eyes open? In other words, are you more clairvoyant than anything else? Are you very emotionally sensitive? You can feel somebody else's emotions and they don't even have to tell you how they're feeling. You can feel somebody else's emotions and they don't have to be in the room with you. Is your body a receiver? If there's some stress going on, do you get a headache, a backache? Okay. Is your body a receiver? Do you get stomach problems from being so intuitive? Lastly, and I'm very much this way, are you rather left-brained? Are you rather mental rather than more emotional? And do you get hits in words, phrases, sentences, thoughts? Those are your intuitive capabilities, okay? So how do we manage right now? Some of you have asked me to please talk about coping, okay? And I've been doing that too. Please trust me. I've been dealing with working on coping. Yeah, I'm going to just tap into some experiences I've had so since COVID, I mean, okay, these symptoms of mine come up at various times, but in regard to COVID and regard to all the protests that are going on because of the blatant racism that has become so painfully evident for us in regard to George Floyd's murder. Are you feeling anxious? Are you not sleeping well? First is don't beat up on yourself. Please, please try your darndest. You know, what's wrong with me? Why can't I sleep? Why am I nervous? Why am I edgy? Why am I short with my spouse, my best friend, my child? It's because you're a receiver. You're like a literal receiver that's receiving a signal. Number one is acknowledge that you're a receiver. I think that's crucial. Number two is take time to take care of yourself. Get outside, go for walks, use essential oils, use relaxation tapes, balance your chakras. There's all kinds of practitioners right now, even if you can't go to them hands-on, there's all kinds of practitioners working with people at a distance. Have a Reiki session. Have a healing session with someone, okay? I would suggest that nature is one of the biggest support tools of all. And at least in the Northern Hemisphere, it's warm weather. Get outside, get into the garden, go somewhere there's running water, and imagine a grounding cord into the earth. Connect yourself into the earth, okay? Now, in addition, and we'll get there in just a few minutes, I'm also going to want you to connect to your higher self. And we're going to talk about how to do that, because that's crucial. Because at times it's my higher self that's causing me to be anxious or not sleep well. And we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. If you're feeling down or some depression, ask yourself, is it time to take action? Is it time to grow? Is it time to shift? Is it time to step up? Because at times that's what's being triggered by something that feels weighty. Okay? So I think we're good. We could take maybe a couple of questions. Let's let Earl unmute himself and tell me if, are there questions?
There are no questions at this point.
Okay, so it sounds like, sorry, I had my volume. Say that again. My computer volume was completely turned off.
Okay, there are no questions yet.
All right, perfect. No worries. Thank you. No worries. All right. Questions are welcome. There are no questions that are off base, everybody, but that is totally fine. No worries.
Okay, whoop, just had one pop up. So
Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
Go
now
ahead.
they're coming up. Okay, a little more explanation about sensitive souls. Just how they function. Just any more explanation. It seems to be a major issue here.
Yeah. Of course it's a major issue. That makes total sense, because let me just first say, those of us interested in the kinds of things I'm talking about, we are 3 to 5% of the Earth's population. That's all. We are the more experienced souls, but we're the more sensitive souls, okay? So I'll be even more authentic and transparent here. I definitely have nights in a row or days in a row where, and I'll say we, because Earl goes through this too. I am just anxious beyond anxious. And then I have to tap into, and the anxiety sometimes makes sleep difficult, or sometimes it's happening during the day. I have to tap into my intuition. I have to tap into, what am I feeling? Okay. So like, for instance, if you're a news watcher, and please know that some of you as intuitive people cannot spend much time watching or reading the news. And I honor that. That is simply not me, but that may be you. But if you're taking in a lot of the news and you're starting to feel super anxious, get away from it for some period of time. An hour, a day, a week, whatever. Step away from it. Don't beat yourself up with, I'm a highly sensitive person, I'm an HSP, but I need to keep watching the news. Okay? That's one piece. Take a break. Take a break from it. You know, as HSPs, we have our, how can I say this? We have our characteristic responses, okay? If Earl's being affected by something energetic, he'll often get body pain. And it'll exacerbate some arthritic kinds of things. It'll exacerbate some stomach issues. If I'm being affected by something that's energetic, all the fear around COVID, I get it emotionally. I get anxious. I get feeling agitated. Okay. So honor that, but take care of yourself. Now, okay. If whoever asked the question or those that asked the questions, I want to say more about our soul level in a minute, because that's another trigger for your sensitivities. And I'll say more about that in just a minute. And maybe, so is there one more question?
Sure. Well, there are many more, but we'll take one right
Choose
now.
one.
I know that I feel the need to shift, but have no idea of what I should shift to. How will you know what to shift towards? Feeling more confused than ever, which I think is probably true for many, many Americans right now.
Yeah. Yeah, this is tricky and there are no easy answers, okay? Think about if you know there's a shift you need to now, you know, what's hard is where I'm not in dialogue with those of you asking that kind of question. You may be saying, I need to shift my work. You may be saying, I need to shift who I live with. You may be saying, I need to shift where I live. Okay. Tap into that. Is it work? Sometimes we have to bite the bullet and get really brave and know we're going to be taken care of. Is it a friendship, a romantic relationship that isn't working? And as humans, we're taught such huge codependency. You're not responsible for anyone but you. Now, of course, if you have children that you're raising, of course you're responsible for them. But when we're talking about adults, I think one of the biggest, I'm trying to think, you know, I'm pausing because it gives me a chance to let my guides talk to me too. Okay. Why have we gotten into this complicated place of racism? Okay, think about it. So many of us weren't raised to think about being sure that we look at our own needs. We were taught to think about everybody else's needs. Think about your own needs, because I don't think any of you out there listening to this program are an ego-based, me. It's what sadly I think has led to the racist issues. Now, for some reason, my guides are telling me, and I know I can't talk about this for too very long because there's a lot more I want to cover with all of you. I would say all of us, I think this is a fair statement, are struggling with a certain amount of, in my humble opinion, and I actually didn't plan to talk about this topic, but my guides are telling me to talk about it, of what we might call conspiracy. Be careful. There is a lot of, in my humble opinion, conspiracy fears floating around. No one's going to come put a chip in your body. No one's going to come bang on your door and force you to take a vaccine. And so be careful with fear-based kinds of things, because I absolutely don't think those things are going to happen. So be aware there's a lot of conspiracy and fear mentality all around us. And stay centered with who you are. And if there's a shift that you know in your heart and not your head needs to happen, check your heart and let your head, listen to heart and ask your head to support your heart. But it isn't the other way around. What is your heart telling you? And then check it with your head. Not what is your head telling you, and then check it with your heart. Okay? All right, let's go farther. Okay. I'm just going to turn my volume down so you're not, yeah. Okay. So your soul, here we go, and we're going to kind of dive more into the thick of it. Your soul in your body, and your soul at the higher self level. Now, you probably all know this, but just quickly put, when you're born, when any baby is born and is breathing and is viable, that child has a portion, a piece, an aspect of their soul energy in their body that causes them to be alive. The remainder of your soul energy is always in the higher realm, and that's your higher self. Okay. In body, we have roles and responsibilities. I'll fill that in a second. We have them on earth, but your higher self has roles and responsibilities. And here's a message that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but I think is one of the key things, one key topics that I think is important in what I'm talking about overall in this free teaching. Not only what are your current life agreements, what are your intentions? And I know some of you might say, Linda, I don't know. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but think about passions, interests, skills, people, okay? Your soul has responsibilities as well. Your soul is advanced to the point that you have agreements at the higher level. One of the reasons and this happens for Earl too, one of the reasons that Earl and I will have a choppy night of sleep or more than one in a row, or have a lot of anxiety during the day, is our higher self is taking on more responsibility to do what can be done to guide humans. And our soul has taken on more responsibility to try to coordinate with other souls in the spiritual realm to make decisions about how to try to guide Earth to get us past the pandemic, to get us to progress with racism. That's going on. Think about that. I'll say more about that. Okay? So who are your guides? Who are our guides? Okay? Let me say some things about guides. And here's where I just I want to say, it's kind of fancy language. I implore you to trust. I implore you to believe in yourself. It's taken me years and years and years of my life, and still I don't trust as well as I could that I'm being guided, that I'm being directed, that my passions are where I need to step forward. My ideas need to be put into practice, okay? all of us have a lead guide. All of us have a senior spiritual guide. Okay? You don't have to know their name. You don't have to know what they look like. Some of us are guided by a group, and that may mean you're not going to connect with one soul as a guide anyway. You're going to connect with a group. Okay? And sometimes guides just bring us to those segues. And that's the way we know that we have a guide. Okay? One of your guides, if not one of your main guides, is your own soul. Your own soul is sufficiently evolved to be one of your guides. And your own soul's going to feel, your higher self is going to feel more familiar. If you say, well, Linda, how can I tell the difference? There's a little bit more ease, or it's kind of like, it's kind of like talking to yourself, because you are. Sometimes, let's see if I can put words to this. I can't always tell the difference, but often I can. My guide that's separate from my higher self feels a bit more like a teacher. Now, I don't mean a dogmatic or punishing teacher, but more like a senior advisor teacher. My higher self feels like a bit like me. Okay? Also remember, your loved ones are guides. Okay? Your loved ones, friends, family members, grandparents, sisters, children, they're also guides. The key is trust. Trust and trust and trust. And when you get a hit, or you get a feeling, or you have a day where you felt fine yesterday, but today suddenly you either have no energy or you feel anxious, ask your higher self. Ask your higher self, what, I had enough sleep last night. Why do I feel like I have no energy? Your higher self might say to you, Jim, Susan, Jane, Michelle, whatever, Linda, Earl, we are expanding the responsibilities of your higher self, Linda, or Susan, or Jim, or whoever. And it's going to drain you today. You'll be fine tomorrow. Your higher self has roles and responsibilities, and at times you feel pulled on because, let's call higher selves he's and she's, even though they really don't have gender. He's pulling on you. She's pulling on you. By the same token, if you've taken on a new responsibility, a new job, you're trying to make a decision, maybe you're feeling unwell, ask your higher self for support. Ask your higher self to assist you, to show you, to direct you, to give you more energy. Tap into that. Okay? Okay. Well, now I want to give you a flavor of a client. Okay? And I picked a semi-long example because I thought it gave a lot of details. And so I want to read you the client. It comes from my second book that's called The Evolving Soul. And this is Josephine. Okay, that's not the client's real name, because of course I would never use the client's identifying features. Okay. So this is what Josephine says in her regression. I'm an elderly lady, this is past life, okay? I'm an elderly lady in a white cotton gown with curly gray hair to my shoulders. I have a small face with brown eyes. I'm in a small room with one bed, one window, and a wash bowl on a table.
The walls are gray, there's a hardwood floor, and there's a rug by the bed. Now I go to bed. I'm very tired. I pull up the sheet, close my eyes, and drift off. I don't wake up. I've left that body. I look down at myself. Now, this woman was older. This is really the end of her past life regression. I've left that body and I look down. What a poor woman who was so sad and alone most of the time. Most of her people were taken away through death. She felt terrible loss. This is the client speaking still. In this life, I was to learn to cope with loss. I see a nun praying by my bed. She's so sad. I float now in darkness. It's time to rest and regroup. Often when I finish a life, I take time to leave behind the pain and the anger. It's necessary for me to do this. Pain and anger can cling, okay? I need to wash those feelings off and not carry them along. I've learned how to let go of the pain of the past life. There used to be a guide who would help me cleanse, but now I know how to do this myself. This is one of the values, everybody, of past life regression, is we discover what may need to be cleansed and released. I'm at peace now. As I move forward, I meet someone else. It's my main guide. He knows that I needed time for cleanup and that I will come when I'm ready for cleanup. We join energy now and move somewhere else. I've arrived with my committee of senior elder guides, and I feel their love. It's so nice to be back to the place where I review my work. There are 7 of them. I see shapes but no faces, and they all speak as one. My counsel tells me I did well in the last life. Now I understand what loss means. My life now is a reward for letting go of pain. My current life is a reward for letting go of pain. I can't grow if I'm not dealing with pain in the necessary way. I must close the door on learning about pain to see the beauty on the other side of a new door. All of this feels very humbling. They say I'm here to give love and help others around me. I have a hard time believing that it is mostly about the energy I give off. Often I think I should do more. They want me to come to know myself. I'll continue to stumble upon who I am. It's something around energy that has the strength and power to create change. I want to earmark just a couple of things before I go on just a little bit farther. This client is learning that it's the energy of love that Josephine gives off that serves a purpose. Often I think I should do more, and basically our guides are saying you're doing what you came to do. I will stumble upon who I am. If you keep putting one foot in front of each other, your guides will keep showing you who you are and who you are at the soul level and who you are at the earthly level. It's something around energy that has the strength and power to create change. Now I have a sense of my soul family. There are 5 souls around a table. They're just catching up with each other. It's kind of like going back to work after a vacation, sort of like asking, quote, "What did you do when you were gone?" close quote. There's a sense of overwhelming love and expansive joy. The feelings are so powerful that on the earthly plane, I can't grasp the depth of these emotions. First, I see my mother. She tells me that I'm doing a good job. She loves and values me. I see my husband. I'm told we're connected always. And then there's my son. He's exuberant and all about adventure. He always wants to make us laugh. At times, we have to help him get down to work. Michael is there. He's my first spiritual teacher in life today. He's more task-oriented and is about ready to serve as a guide. I'm the shy, quiet one in the group. I ask about my brother because I'm worried about him. They tell me he has more learning coming soon. When my mother passed, his learning and role will shift to a higher level. My brother has taken a difficult body for this life. He's very different in spirit as his higher self than he is in his body. He has chemical challenges in this life's body. Finding balance is hard for him.
So Josephine teaches us about learning via pain and sorrow. She also teaches us about learning to trust. If we keep moving forward and trust, we're going to be shown what we're meant to be doing. And so on this slide, before I move away from it, as much as we might wish that we or someone else didn't have to suffer, suffer is often the major way we evolve. If we trust that the suffering is purposeful, we trust we're always guided, and we don't get stuck in the suffering. Okay? Okay. Now, I actually loved when I found this graphic. We kind of have the choice to keep moving forward or repeat. I think you all know that. And those of us that are experienced souls, that are highly sensitive people, our life isn't always going to be easy because we are HSPs. We are experienced souls. When I have those repetitive nights that are really challenging in terms of sleep, or those repetitive days where I just feel just incredibly unsettled, I don't like them. I really don't. I complain about them. But at some level, I know something's triggering those days. And once I accept something's triggering them, and I accept that what's triggering them may be going on at my soul level, or maybe going on at my human level, and that we are completely tethered to our higher self level, and only through coordination at the higher self level that guides what we do on earth are we going to evolve. I can tell you that the higher self level is concerned. We have a lot of big issues going on the planet. And all they can do is guide us. They can't fix it. They can't take it away. But they can help us move through it. I'm going to give you a quick example that I noticed on the news today. Without going into a lot of detail, you probably know that there have been some odd, I'm going to say inappropriate things going on around the White House in Washington, D.C., and some mistreatment of peaceful protesters. Okay. The mayor of, in my opinion, the mayor of D.C. I think she was guided. It's a Black woman who's the mayor of Washington, D.C. She made a free will choice. And on it's actually 16th Street, on the street that leads up to the White House, 16th Street. You may have seen this on the news. She had in huge yellow letters painted, "Black Lives Matter." That's stepping forward. That's not worrying about those that don't agree. That's trusting your core self and what you think needs to be done. I honor her as a Black female mayor in taking that step. Okay, let's go farther. And I hope we'll have time for more questions. I want to be sure to cover more before we run out of time. Okay, what's your responsibility as a human and as a soul? Okay, so first, think about your life intentions, what they
what they are or can be, or what you think they are, what you suspect they are, and think soulfully. Think about your soul. What's your soul doing in the higher realm? Now, I know that's maybe a new concept for some of you. And some of you are going to say, Linda, I don't have a clue. I'll say a little bit more about it that will help you before we finish today, okay? Act. Don't just think, but please act. Act can be social media. Act can be helping your neighbor. Act can be changing your job, whatever it might be. And here I wrote act big and small. And what I think about that, because I'm not saying think big and think small. Act big and act small. Okay, act big means go write that book you've been thinking about writing. As I said, go change your job that you've been thinking about changing. But also act small, meaning take dinner to a neighbor. Go help your neighbor with their garden. Call somebody that you've been thinking about calling for 6 months and you just haven't done it. So it doesn't have to be something magnanimous. It can be both. Okay. Responsibilities, human and higher self. Let me say this differently. In the higher realm, there is a council of experienced souls who serve as a Congress. Call them the Earth Congress or the Earth Council. They try to come up with solutions. I've said this a little while ago. They try to come up with solutions to help the Earth as guides. They do not always agree. Sometimes for those of us whose soul has a responsibility in the higher realm, we're feeling a bit, this may surprise some of you, we're feeling a bit of dissension going on in the spiritual realm about how to try to help Earth. Sometimes when I say they throw up their hands, I don't mean they give up on us, but sometimes they're going, what else can we do? You know, how many Black men, primarily, they're not all men, but how many Black men are going to be murdered by white folks for no reason? And they go, what else can we do to try to get them to change this? What else can we do to keep them from, with COVID, going to a great big swimming pool party and congregating or whatever? Okay. Master guides. Okay. Now, some of you are going to say that Earth Council, those are a bunch of the master guides that we know by name. Those are the Master Saint Germains and the Master Moria and the Jesus and the Moses and the Buddha and the okay? Yes, and some of those guides on the Earth Council are some of us, because our souls are sufficiently evolved to do that. We're still incarnating, and that still happens. But many of you listening, I really believe, are either on the Earth Council. You might say aides and deputies to the Earth Council and advisors to the Earth Council. And some of you are going to go, oh yeah, right, Linda. And I'm going to say, oh yeah, right, because that does happen. Okay. All right. Now, let me say, and I'm going to try to cover a few things in minorly short order here so we can take some questions in the next, say, 15 or so minutes. I also said I'd talk about people that are passing right now. There are people leaving. As you all know, there are nameable people leaving that sometimes surprise us, like people in the music industry, um, significant people that are public figures. And there are also people leaving that are part of your lives. Earl and I have recently had a very close family member leave in the last few weeks. In some cases, those that are leaving, let me see how to say this. In some cases, those that are leaving are choosing to leave. It's their time, okay? And others, maybe they hadn't planned on leaving, but they choose to leave now. Now, for sure, the reverse is going on. People that thought they would leave are not leaving, okay? This is a soul level decision. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the George Floyd type situation. I'm not the least bit convinced, honestly, that George Floyd was ready to leave. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about souls that are actively at the soul level, just either deciding or they've known for a while they were going to leave soon. I think some are leaving because of what's going on the earth. And I think others are committing to staying because of what's going on the earth. It's an intention. It's a soul intention, okay? Some souls are leaving because it's an agreement at the soul level, and their soul energy is needed at the soul level to augment their higher self energy, to do more of the work their higher self does. I want to say that again. Some people are passing because they've completed what they came into body to do, and their higher self needs a surge, more petrol in the tank of the higher self. Keep tapping into your loved ones. Keep tapping into hearing them. They are often there. And I'm not going to take time to tell you how to do that. That would be a whole long conversation. But they are there and they are available. Okay. Let me cover one more decent sized topic before we go to questions. Experienced souls come in 3 flavors. A little bit like chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla, except I don't think I can label them as which one's chocolate and which one's, strawberry and vanilla. These are 3 types of advanced souls, okay? Some of you were created as earth-based souls to incarnate almost always on the earth. Some of you were created almost always to not incarnate on the earth, and you are interplanetary souls. Your soul's home base is tied to the frequency of where your soul comes from in the universe. I'm an earth-based soul. My higher self resides in the spiritual realm tied to earth. If you're an interplanetary soul, your soul does not reside in the frequency tied to earth. Excuse me. Lastly, and I'm going to say more about this, there are souls from the angelic realm. How do I know this? Because I work with clients that are earth-based souls, interplanetary souls, and angelic realm souls. Earth-based souls have somewhat, somewhat, better coping skills in an earth body. Earth-based souls, not earthbound, so please know I'm not saying earthbound, I'm saying earth-based. As earth-based souls, we've been here kind of ad nauseum. That's how we evolved, lifetime to lifetime. We do a bit better on earth than an interplanetary or an angelic realm soul. We've probably been coming to earth for thousands and thousands of years. We are co-workers at the soul level with master guides of earth. That's a part of what we do at our higher self level. Interplanetary souls. Interplanetary souls usually do not incarnate on earth. When interplanetary souls come to earth, they are highly evolved. They may have 5 to 100 earth lives, but hundreds, if not thousands, of non-earth lives. Interplanetary or IP souls have more emotional and physical issues than experienced earth-based souls, but they are incredibly wise and incredibly unique in their skills, their perspective, their vantage point, their musical abilities, their artistic abilities, their technology abilities, etc. And they co-create with earth-based souls. And at times they advise earth-based souls in the higher realm. Okay? Some of you out there are I certainly know some of you that are here with us. You are interplanetary souls. Okay. Angelic realm souls. Let me finish up this piece. So, angelic realm souls are the third category of souls that I want to mention. They are created in the angelic realm. They serve the divine. Angelic realm souls generally don't incarnate, and when they incarnate primarily on earth. Okay? They are pure love and compassion. That is, if you meet an angelic realm soul, they are a person that is the kindest, most caring person. They are a high vibration of white light. They don't have many incarnations, period. They embody, as I said, almost always on the earth. And their soul pod is the realm of angelic beings. That's their soul pod. So let me just say, and I'll try to take maybe 1-2 questions rather briefly. I want to ask each and every one of you that are listening to this video to be and to do your agreements. It isn't easy. When we're experienced souls, it's not easy because we're unique, we're sensitive, we're quirky, if I can put it that way. Pay attention to your passions. Don't ignore your passions. They tell you so much about who you are. Think about how your passions fit your purpose. It may be how you make money. It may be how you find enjoyment. It has nothing to do with making money. Use your left brain and your right brain. Think and feel. Also focus on, do you think more than you feel? Do you feel more than you think? What are the signs along your journey that tell you who you are? Okay, so I think we could take a question, maybe 2 questions. Let's just kind of see. Be sure to, yeah, there you go. So we're going to let Earl give us another, at least 1, if not maybe 2.
Okay, do you have your volume up now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, sounds good. Here's the question. How do I connect to my guides or higher self? Just talking out loud and trusting they all will always hear me? Question mark.
I love that. Spiritual practice. Anything that takes you deeper. Music, the out of doors, candles, meditation, prayer. What helps you feel that you're just tapping into something bigger than you? Okay? Any kind of spiritual practice helps you get just slightly quieter. And remember intuition. You might be visual, you might be emotion-based, you might be body-centered, and you might be mental with your intuition. But yes, absolutely, talk to your higher self. Or get a pencil and paper. Write and if you're a woman, call it her. If you're a man, call it him. Write to him. And write down what he tells you. And the bottom line is trust and trust and trust. Yeah. Okay, maybe one more.
One more, here's a quick one. Do the Earth Council members incarnate?
That's easy to answer. The answer is some of them do and some of them don't. Some Earth Council members have multiple incarnations right now, simultaneously. Some no longer incarnate. That's the honest to goodness truth. Go to our website, ravenheartcenter.com, or contact Earl at Ravenheart Center. There's Earl's phone number. It's on our website, but you can copy it down. I'm also guiding regression on Zoom, and I have begun to guide some regression in my Colorado office. I'm not yet traveling, and I'm also doing what I call spiritual mentoring, which is soul-based counseling. So I want to close everybody by saying, you've seen this you've seen this phrase before. Be the change now. Be it in small ways, be it in big ways. There are all kinds of ways to be the change. Change only happens through us as humans. The spiritual realm doesn't come down to earth and fix anything. It doesn't work that way. So be the change right now. Everybody, thank you so very much for joining me. I'm so glad to have so many of you, US and abroad, with us today. I'm thrilled and available to work with you in any way that you feel like is important. Take care of yourselves. Stay healthy. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to my partner in crime, to Earl, and I hope to hear from many of you. Take good care, everyone. Bye-bye.